David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. You know how sometimes there are pens that you are just really on the fence about, ones that you want and have put in your shopping cart multiple times only to delete it and not pull the trigger again and again and again. Well, today I have for you a pen that was just that for me. It was something which in the US is only available on eBay, and over the last couple of years I've lost track of how many offers I'd submitted to sellers, only to have them all rejected. I wanted the pen, but the price was always just a little bit more than I was willing to pay. And I'm not a huge fan of the model itself, but finally I caved, mainly because of two things. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video about pens that you can no longer purchase, and I was afraid that this pen would eventually be difficult to find. And then I recently watched a very good movie that I'll talk about here in a bit. The combination of those two things finally made me pull the trigger on the pen, and I haven't been disappointed. The pen is from Platinum and was released back in 2019 to celebrate the 65th anniversary of the first appearance of the Japanese kaiju Godzilla. That was 5 years ago, and there's actually a number of 70th anniversary events which have taken place recently. What I am going to do today is go over the parts and features of this monstrous offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to me for purchasing this pen. The pen arrives in this commemorative box, and inside we have a few things. There is a use and care guide, and then there are 4 bottles of ink. What is cool about this is they are meant to be mixable inks. They give you a little kit with some pipettes and a little mixing bowl, as well as some solution to dilute the ink if you wish to lighten it up, and a larger container to store your creation. I mixed the blue and red to come up with this nice purple that you'll see more of in the writing sample. Okay, let's get to this pen. This is the Platinum 3776 Godzilla. It is made from resin and has ruthenium colored trim. I'm not sure if it's actually ruthenium. This is the standard 3776 size. While I care for this size of pen, I do wish that they would come out with something like a 3776 large, which was a bit thicker and longer. That would be cool. The distinguishing feature of the exterior of this pen are the representation of Godzilla's plates, which traverse down his spine and tail. These are painted on or something along those lines. I especially like how they're not uniform. There is some unique elements to each plate. I mentioned the movie earlier, and it's one I highly recommend. That would be Godzilla -1. This is not just a kaiju movie. Yes, Godzilla does show up and he does do Godzilla things. But this film is much more about the people. It takes place in post-World War II Japan, and it shows the effect of the war on its citizens. I also like that it doesn't treat any other country as being the enemy. The amazing thing is that this film looks as great as any Hollywood blockbuster, but the budget was only $15 million. They even recently came out with a version in black and white that looks amazing. That's like a Godzilla -1 C. C for minus color. It's one of my favorite films I've seen this year. Okay, let's get a closer look at this pen. The top of the cap is rounded. It's tough to see here, but the darker portions of this pen are just slightly translucent, so they aren't completely opaque. This transitions into the clip band and the traditional platinum clip. It is decently flexible and accommodates materials of varying thicknesses. The cap angles up pretty much for its entire length. At the end, we have a cap brand engraved with Godzilla on both the front and the back. Then on either side, there is a bit of a crackling element. I do like that the design isn't just simply duplicated. The cracks on either side are different. I also think it's interesting that this pen is completely devoid of any platinum branding. Nothing wrong with that. I just thought it was interesting. After the band, there is a tapered step down to the barrel, which angles down fairly consistently until you reach the end, where there's another somewhat translucent rounded piece. The cap twists off with 1.5 rotations, and underneath is what really sold me on this pen. I am a sucker for a cool nib imprint, and I would categorize this one as very cool. It says Godzilla with a stamping of the monster himself. I particularly like the stylized, almost lightning bolt border at the top. This is a 14 karat gold number 6 platinum nib. Most breather holes on platinum nibs are heart-shaped. I think it was a wise decision to have this one on this nib be round. It would have looked a bit odd to have a heart right above Godzilla. Then again, everyone needs some love in their lives, even those with atomic breath that is capable of causing mass destruction and destroying entire cities. Now, this is supposed to be a medium. You will see in the writing sample, but platinum nibs tend to be kind of more true to Japanese nib sizes. What I mean by that is a Japanese medium, especially a platinum, is more like a Western fine. In the case of this nib, it's actually more like an extra fine. It produces a very thin and narrow line, much thinner than my personal taste, but it's still pleasant to write with. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a slight flare. It's basically straight until the cap threads and a medium-sized step up to the remainder of the barrel. This pen is plenty long enough to use unposted. While this pen does post, and it does post securely, I did notice on the documentation for this pen, they give a warning not to post the pen. I haven't purchased a platinum pen in a while, so I'm uncertain if that is a general instruction for the 3776 series, or if it's only for this specific model. This is a cartridge converter pen. Platinum does utilize a proprietary size, so you'll need to use a Platinum branded cartridge or a Platinum branded converter, one of which is provided. I mentioned this previously, but from what I have found, the only place I can see this pen is up on eBay. The prices on it vary, but are generally listed in the $350 to $450 price range. The ones which have sold have been in like the $325 to $350 range. For something unique and special like this model, that's about at the high end of what I would be willing to pay for this pen. With tax and shipping, I paid right around $350. So far, I've been very pleased with my purchase. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Okay, here we have the Platinum 3776 Godzilla. I just wanted to show you these inks really quick. First of all, I just think they fit really nicely into this case, and they have a unique shape to them. And so they kind of fit nicely together like that, which I think is kind of cool that they work well like that. It kind of reminds me of some of the Diamine, is it 1864 models? That are the wedge shape that then you could put together, which are interesting. But in regard to these four colors, this is what they look like. This is the smoke black, the flame red, the aqua blue, and the leaf green. And then using the recipes that they provide, you can mix these colors and provide your own specialty ink. Now, in regard to the color that I created, let's go ahead and, you know what? I only created enough for this particular fill. So let me go ahead and see if I can get some of this out here. Let me try doing this and just fill the end of this Q-tip with the ink. And this is the purple color that I created, which was pretty much a 1-to-1 combination of the blue and the red. And I thought it turned out nice. Okay, wanted to give you another close look at this particular pen. I mentioned before, but I'm fond, I know it's reflective in here and hard to see, but I do like that the plates here are basically varied as it goes around. They really aren't duplicated, and so it just gives a unique feel to it. So it does feel like a nice custom pen. And then in regard to that nib, I'll go ahead and show that again, but I just love that Godzilla on there, especially with kind of the lightning bolt top. I just think it looks really, really cool and solid. And that's what I'm looking for in a custom pen, is really a custom nib stamping as well. Just really adds to it. But in regard to some size comparisons, this is what it looks like with another Platinum 3776. This was from their Lake series. This is the Yamanaka. And then here it is with this is a Sailor 1911 large. And then this is a Montegrappa Elmo. And then in regard to a couple of other pens, this is an Esterbrook SD large, or oversized is I believe what they call it. And then here is a Mont Blanc 146. And then this is a Delta Dolce Vita. In regard to uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Mont Blanc 146. This is the SD oversize, and then this is the Sailor 1911 large. Okay, so here we go with the writing sample for the Platinum. We'll call it the 3776 Godzilla. And this is a medium 14 karat gold nib. And the ink I'm using, I showed you earlier, we'll just call it the custom Godzilla Purple. I know that you really can't see a lot of it just because it's a rather thin line, but just as a reminder, that's what the purple looked like. That in regard to line width, you're not going to get a lot of line variation out of here. It doesn't flex that much. And as I mentioned, this is very much a Japanese medium, so it really performs almost more like a Western fine or even extra fine. It is a very fine line. In regard to some reverse writing, it is a little intermittent there, but in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up well. And it does have some nice feedback to it as well. It's not, what you hear isn't necessarily scratchiness. There's a difference between scratchiness and just a nice feedback. In this nib, I would categorize it having a real nice feedback, which I enjoy. So there we have the Platinum 3776 Godzilla. You know, I am glad that I pulled the trigger on this because one of these days this pen is not going to be available any longer, and at that point I will have regretted not picking it up. So I've been, even though it was a little bit more than I really wanted to pay, I think in the long run I'll be pleased with it. And it, like I mentioned before, it has one of the coolest nib imprints in my collection. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.